Hello, this is Matt Harris with Verato, and today I'm with Jonathan, who is part of our Harris WebWorks team. He's a solutions architect and knows a lot about Sales Layer and some of the solutions we're building. So welcome, Jonathan.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Today we're just going to dig in to Sales Layer. Sales Layer is a product information management system, a PIM system. And we're a partner with Sales Layer. We're building it into some of our solutions, particularly the Ascend solution, which is our e-commerce front end that works with Sales Layer. And we're just going to kind of go through some of the functionality. And Jonathan's going to just demonstrate a few things and talk through how it works and give you guys some insight into the user interface, which is sometimes frustrating when they're looking at trying to invest in technology, and it's hard to tell how does it work and what does it look like and what can I expect. So we're just going to give you a little bit of insight today into that, and then hopefully that'll be helpful. Yeah, and by the way, if you're listening to this podcast, you might want to check out the video version of it where we have a screen share where you can see the user interface of Sales Layer. That'll be up on YouTube and probably on our a blog article as well. Yeah, Jonathan, why don't you just run through some of the stuff we see on the screen?
So here is an instance of Sales Layer. This is our sandbox that we use with our Ascend theme. And when you first enter Sales Layer, you're going to see a quick snapshot of what the instance looks like, how many SKUs, the database memory size, how many users, and how many channels. I'll quickly talk about the channels first because that's kind of the main point of a PIM system.
Okay.
And it's to centralize your data into the PIM platform and then also to push those products into different sales channels.
Okay.
And as you know, people are selling on all kinds of different channels today. There's even the TikTok shop now and different websites and Amazon. And Sales Layer's got a lot of pre-built connections to that.
Okay.
BigCommerce, Shopify, Magento,
WooCommerce. Oh, look, CSV for InDesign.
Yep.
So you can print catalogs.
Yep, print catalogs as well.
Yeah, that's cool. And then Amazon, Google Shopping. Yeah.
Yep.
And then custom. So you
and then
basically
the custom
do
ones
anything.
as well.
Yeah. Cool.
And that's where you would fold in an ERP if you wanted to store the key product data,
Right.
like SKU, name, weight, price,
Right.
stuff like that coming from the ERP. You can do that as well.
So you could have like source of truth on pricing and inventory in your ERP, and everything else source of truth would be in the PIM for
Right.
product.
Right. And then all of the content and the data enrichment would come in Sales Layer. And to do that, we'll go to the product screen here. The products are organized into families,
Okay.
which is a sort of product grouping. And that helps group your attributes together. And I'll quickly show you what it looks like to set up a family. So if we're in this HVAC family here, this is all of the attributes available for these HVAC products. And as you can see, this basic information's probably going to have a lot of attributes that all the products
Okay.
have. And you can copy these tabs or pages into other families pretty easily. And then you'll end up with some very specific HVAC
So
attributes.
there's your additional attributes.
Yep.
So you could have like primary attributes, additional attributes. So a family is essentially like a set of fields that you can, and then you can group the fields by a title.
Right.
Just to it helps keep things organized.
Right. And those
And is it necessarily going to be a category as well? Is it typically like a product category, a family?
typically they go pretty hand in hand. Obviously they're slightly different because the categories are actually, they're more of a hierarchy, more of a category tree structure, as opposed to just a family. A lot of times the family goes hand in hand with the top level category. So, you would have an HVAC top level category on your nav menu of your site, and you'd probably have an an HVAC family in Sales Layer.
So within a defining a single product, it could be defined by a family.
Yep.
But then it could also live in multiple categories.
Yep. Yeah, it can live in multiple categories, but what attributes it has part of its product form is determined by its family.
Defined by the family. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I'll show you the categories here. And you can tag these categories with specific tags, and that helps with one, organizing, just keeping your category tree structured. If there's any test categories that you don't want people to be changing, you can add custom tags. It also helps with channels as well. You can send categories and products through a specific channel based on a tag. So if you have stuff that you only sell on Amazon, you can have them in Amazon categories and send them those products.
So your stuff going into Amazon, you can tell Amazon how you want it to be categorized once it hits Amazon.
Yeah.
And that might be a little bit different than how you would define that. Okay.
Right. And the products themselves might be completely different.
Right.
And I think I'll go back to the channels because I want to get into what it might look like for a specific channel. If we go ahead and make a Magento channel, which we use to integrate our Ascend theme, there's a few different things. First, you'll have to assign a private key. This helps with the synchronization of it from the Magento side. And it's a pull from Magento, the way the connection works. So Magento will pull based on the frequency that you set in Magento. It will pull any change data from Sales Layer. And so here's where you can define your categories. This is, you can determine what tags you want to use, what products you want to send. And then you can also choose what fields are sent to Magento and what aren't, and what they map to in Magento. So you can choose to send a category description and an image. You can choose not to. It's totally up to you. There's a lot of flexibility. Same with the product data. You can choose to send certain fields. There are some required fields. And additionally, you can add formulas using some conditional statements, reformatting. If a field's empty, you can choose to put a default value so that you're not breaking whatever platform you're syncing to.
So you could put character limits on there and stuff.
Right. And you can do that with field validations when you create the Sales Layer attributes themselves. There's character limit. There are some regular expression formatting as well. Especially for UPC codes, I've noticed there's a 12-digit code that it needs.
Right.
And then additionally, you can restrict fields as well to a set list of values, specifically for drop-down and multi-select in Magento. And that really helps keep things organized and stops the data from getting super messy.
Okay. Very cool. So let's say we've got this. So our Ascend theme would allow you to have multiple storefronts. So you could have one company could have a storefront for plumbing parts, another storefront for HVAC, and another storefront for electrical, and another storefront for just B2B. How would you set up the flows between Sales Layer and the e-commerce front end so that this product needs to go into this store?
Yeah. So what I would do is I would set up, so say this was for the electrical. I would set this, I would set this channel up with a tag that specifies that I only want the electrical categories. That will restrict any products that aren't in those electrical categories from being sent through this connector. And then I would connect this Sales Layer connection to the to sync only into the electrical store view in Magento. And that way it would only sync those products to that store view. So you're not seeing your electrical products on your HVAC site.
So that could be just a custom tag, a custom field, and it says don't import. If it says electrical, It goes in electrical.
Yeah.
If it says HVAC, it says HVAC, but it could also say both. It could have both tags,
Right.
and it goes into both stores.
Right.
So it's ultimately like super flexible. Then you could have the B2B. Yeah, super powerful. In addition, the big picture, the way I see it, is the value of this is, well, we didn't even talk about suppliers yet, supplier imports, right?
Yep.
But imagine that you have all of your product data centralized in this. It's normalized, and now you can control which channel sees which products, and you can even define like different deal structures. You could define different prices, right? So there's a massive amount of flexibility, and then stuff starts to automate, and then those order flows go back into your ERP, and no matter what channel you're in, you can centralize your order flow back into a single ERP system, which is also part of the Ascend stack, which I think for a lot of businesses is incredibly powerful. But let's get into the import part, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So let's say you're a company and you've got 20 suppliers. What are your options for organizing how to receive and import data from your suppliers?
Yeah. So they have a pre-built import connector, and what that does is it allows you to connect to Sales Layer via an API, and it allows for really easy structuring of the incoming API data. Here's where you can set whether or not you want to accept categories or not, whether or not you want to whether or not you want to send product data and variant data. Variants are really similar to child-parent relationships. In a lot of different softwares call them different things: configurables and simple products. Sales Layer calls them products and variants.
So it could be like this one's in blue and this one's in red, kind of thing.
Right.
Depending on
So the T-shirt number 1 is the product. T-shirt number 1 in red, size large, is the variant.
That's what we call configurables in the e-commerce space, but variants. Okay.
Right.
Yes.
But it's a parent-child relationship,
right,
essentially.
Exactly.
So here's where, very similarly to that Magento connector I showed earlier, you can specify what data is coming in and what field it's going to be mapped to. This is really nice because you don't have to do all this mapping in the coding in the API calls. You can just send a JSON payload of data with however many attributes you have. So say you only have SKU and name. It'll only sync to these, and you didn't have to specify. You don't have to know your developers don't have to know what it's called in Sales Layer. You can easily choose. You can easily rename the field, and you can also add formulas into that incoming data, which can really help.
So you mean the source field could be different than the name field that you're using in Sales Layer, but only the connector needs to know that.
Right.
Calculate that.
And as long as you know what is coming in, you can easily map it.
And so obviously the next question is, on those import fields, every supplier might be defining them differently, right? So you want supplier 1, you can map to their imports, but then you could do something different for a different supplier.
Right. And you can also, a good solution for that might be some templates to help convert some of their sort of their company's standard fields and field naming to what you're using in Sales Layer. But you can definitely have multiple import connectors if you need to as well.
Okay. And then if they have some source or some location of an update, can we automatically then import that into our PIM if they tell us where that location is of those data?
Yeah, definitely. So you can add a URL of a CSV if you're hosting it on a SFTP or FTP server,
or a Google spreadsheet like we have right there. Right?
Google spreadsheet, yes. It's not quite the most secure example, but it's a quick way to test out the functionality.
But you could have an FTP server somewhere.
Right.
That's password protected and encrypted, and you can pull the
Right. And that's where you also need to include this channel private key here.
There you go.
That helps keep it very secure. And you have to pass that through if you're making an API call as well.
Super, super powerful. Cool. Um, it's funny. I heard someone say the other day that with the businesses that made it was one of the PIM technology companies was talking about this in a video that their estimation is that there's only about maybe 4% of companies using this technology right now.
Really?
Yeah. And, maybe not all companies need it. Um, but I would say my estimation is that the companies that do need it, a very small percentage, a minority are using it. And once something like this is implemented, it's pretty easy to tell from my perspective the efficiency gains. And not only the efficiency gains, but uh, the standardization of product data so there's fewer errors, fewer mistakes, fewer headaches, but also it gives you the ease to go into other channels later. So if you're trying to expand your business and gain access easily without a lot of manual work,
Yeah.
these additional channels, you kind of have everything set up. So this is like the foundation of your product data, essentially.
Right. And
Yeah.
everyone wants to be getting their products out there wherever they can. Supply House, Home Depot, Walmart, Amazon. This just helps keep
Exactly.
everything in one place, and you can automate some of those data flows and product feeds and push them out into those sales channels.
Well, the other thing I'm noticing is that there's a growth in just marketplaces. So, Supply House being an example of a pretty big company at this point that was finding a need to build a marketplace around a certain industry, which is
Right.
maybe contractors and trades. But I could see that continuing. I could see that as even getting more specialized. So you have like more marketplaces that are getting a larger audience of a particular type of consumer, and that suppliers and manufacturers that want to play in this expanding marketplace might need to be able to, will need to be able to optimize the efficiencies at which they're getting into these new opportunities. That's kind of the way I see it. I think the supply house is an example of a trend that's going to grow, and you'll get more kind of like specialty marketplaces expanding. So it'll be Amazon will always have its dominant position, or it will have a dominant position for a while. But I think things will start to get a little bit more specialized. And Amazon, obviously won't be able to do a good job at everything. And
Right.
companies like Supply House will figure out where those opportunities are. So this is an example, I think, of how the technology and the marketplaces and the industries are becoming more sophisticated, and how technology can give you a leg up on your competition if you start adopting to these new technologies like a PIM system now. That's why we're promoting it through Harris WebWorks, our agency, but it's also just a good thing for general businesses to understand how this works and how your company might be able to benefit from it. There's still a ton of companies like you and I have seen on the agency side that are still organizing product data through spreadsheets, and they're having all kinds of issues where, well, was it on so and so's desktop? Where's the last version? Is it on the server? Oh, I updated it. Yeah, so you get like errors, and can create a lot of problems. This is really cool. So obviously, Sales Layer is not the only PIM system out there.
Correct.
This is the one that we know really well, and we're certified in it. The agency, Harris WebWorks, is certified in it. But there's a bunch of them out there, a bunch of good ones too, right? So
Definitely.
if anyone's interested, reach out to us through Verado or the Harris WebWorks agency channels. But hopefully this was helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, that's
We
pretty
covered
much
most
it
of
for
it.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more granular, but it can get really get into the weeds of it. But that was a pretty good overview. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks, Matt.
All right. See you later. Yeah, and by the way, if you're listening to this podcast, you might want to check out the video version of it where we have a screen share where you can see the user interface of Sales Layer. That'll be up on YouTube and probably on our a blog article as well.